What's going on? Albie with Albie Fitness Gaming, and you've seen the title of the video, you know why you're here. Bah! Mono white, death and taxes for modern. Let's go ahead and go through the deck tech here and card choices. So this is a deck that has been around pretty much since the beginning of modern. There was really two versions of the deck. There was the good version and then there was the bad version. Most people played the bad version, and I'll explain to you why. So the bad version was the version that would play cards like Blade Splicer and things like that. Now this is well before the Eldrazi, and we'll get into that as well. And the good version played Restoration Angel, and some even played Judge's Familiar, which was a hybrid white and a blue 1/1 flying bird that you can sacrifice and counter a spell unless the controller pays 1, which went really well with Thalia. I'm going to explain to you why people gravitated towards the bad version of this deck and why it was bad and why the other version was better. So the reason that they went to that is because Modern, since the beginning, has really been a format where people really like their value. They like to get their little 2-for-1s. They like cards that can give you a little bit of value here and there. Where in Legacy, it's not so much about that, right? The cards are so powerful in Legacy that it's more about disruption. So, when this deck was introduced into Modern and people started playing it, they started using Flicker Wisp, one of the key cards to Death and Taxes, as a way to generate value, rather than what it really is, a disruptive creature. I mean, it's part of your beatdown plan, but you're supposed to use Flicker Wisp as a disruptive creature, not as a value engine. Stop it. So they started using Flicker Wisp as a way to get little tokens here and there, and the deck obviously sucked because, like, why? Who cares? So you have a golem and you got another golem and then you're dead. That's not the point of this deck. The good version did not play Blade Splicer. It played Restoration Angel. Restoration Angel served as a beatdown plan, but also when you use your Flicker Wisp in a way of disrupted, for example, either at the end of your turn or at the beginning of their upkeep to maybe flicker one of their lands to mana screw them for a turn, you can then put down the Restoration Angel, blinking the Flicker Wisp to repeat the process, and now you can screw them out of 2 lands. So you're setting them back turns and while you're progressing your board. That's one way to disrupt them with Flicker Wisp. You can also remove blockers. You can just basically pull a bunch of shenanigans with Flicker Wisp and Restoration Angel while at the same time having these evasive creatures that beat down. So that version of the deck was a lot better because it was doing what Death and Taxes was meant to do, which is disrupt your opponent and beat them down. It really pains me to see people building this deck in Modern and trying to make it into a value deck. Like, it's not a value deck, folks. It's a mono white control deck with creatures. That's what it is. So, fast forward, we got some good cards now. The deck is playable. We got Giver of Ruins, aka Mother of Ruins. Some may debate it's better, some debate it's not. I think they're the same. They serve different purposes. But let's go through the deck here and how it works. So as for the land, we have a Ganji Castle. That is going to protect your Thalia. That is the main reason why it's there. And because it taps for a white, and we have plenty of white basic land, so why not? Field of Ruin, Ghost Quarter pretty much serve the same purpose, and that is to mana screw your opponent with the Leon Arbiter here. Field of Ruin is also really good, I think, in this deck, because if you don't have Leon Arbiter, you're still able to take care of any trouble lands while not losing a land like you would with Ghost Quarter. So for example, with Tron, one of the issues with Tron is you start Ghost Quartering them and you don't have a Leon Arbiter, they're still putting down a forest while you're losing a land. So you're setting yourself back. But with Field of Ruin, you can destroy their Tron land and still be able to continue with your land drops and progressing your board. Then we have Horizon Canopy. Basically, any tap and sack draw card Horizon land is fine. I just use Horizon Canopy. There's no real reason. It's just some people play 3, some people play 4. I'm playing 3 with 11 basic planes. Then we have Giver of Ruins. Giver of Ruins serves the purpose of protecting all your hate bears, making your opponent having to use 2 removal spells in order to get rid of one of your top hate bears. Then we got Path of Exile, we got Aether Vial, we got Leon Arbiter, we got Stoneforge Mystic to get you your swords. Where's the other sword? Here it is. So you have the Sword of Fire and Ice, the Maul of Skyclaves, and the Batterskull. Those are your equipment of choice. Now, Leon Arbiter and Stoneforge Mystic, not the best combination, but also not the worst. I've played this deck already a few times, and I mean, there's workarounds to get around this. You just gotta be aware of your plays ahead of time. I don't think it's okay to trim Stoneforge Mystic from this deck just because you have Leon Arbiter and they don't play too well together. I still think that Stoneforge Mystic is part of the reason this deck is top tier right now. And then, of course, we have Thalia. We have the Arcane. This guy is pretty much like an evasive version of the big Thalia. It also stops your opponent from playing multiple spells a turn. Also yourself, but you have Aether Vial. And, you know, this is pretty slow deck, to be fair. So you're not really playing multiple spells a turn most of the time anyway. So this is going to deal more damage to them and hurt their strategy more than it is us. Of course, Flicker Wisp, that's where all the shenanigans are. We're playing Flicker Wisp mainly as a disruptive creature. As you can see here, we're not going to be flickering Stoneforge Mystic. I mean, we may flicker Batterskull if we need to get the Germ token again. But mainly it's to remove blockers, remove attackers, maybe mana screw them for a turn. That's really what we're doing here. Maybe we blink Skyclave Apparition, depending, because this card is just busted. This is, again, in my opinion, one of the reasons why this deck is top tier. I mean, we've gotten some good upgrades on this deck. We have Giver of Ruins, the Stoneforge, and the Skyclave Apparition. And then let's look at the sideboard here. Sideboard, 4 Rest in Peace. That's going to be our graveyard hate. We don't use our graveyard at all, so that's pretty much a free roll for us. Spirit of Labyrinth, that's good against decks they're using Serum Visions, Ops. Any deck that's trying to draw multiple cards a turn. We do have to be careful, though, because we do have Horizon Canopy. But that's not a big deal. Winds of Abandonment, this is used, it can be used as single removal, but I think mainly the reason this card is here is for mass removal for decks that are going wide. Then we got Archaea's Champion, against Burn, any other aggressive decks. Aven Mind Sensor, just a good card that goes very well with our strategy here of Ghost Corridors, Field of Ruin. It can also hold equipment very well. And then we have Phyrexian Revoker, that's going to get rid of like activated abilities that we don't want, maybe an Oblivion Stone, maybe some Planeswalkers that we're having trouble getting rid of or dealing with. And then Sword of Light and Shadow. Sword of Light and Shadow is really good in this deck because we are playing a lot of creatures, so most likely our creatures are going to be dying to a lot of decks if we don't have our Giver of Ruins active. And Sword of Light and Shadow is going to allow us to bring back those creatures, so it's a form of card advantage. Also, it gains us life, and it has protection from white and black, which is actually really, really relevant in this current format. All right, well, there you have it, guys. That is the Death and Taxes deck tech. We're going to be running it through some games. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. And thank you guys for watching, and stay tuned for some games.